Hello and welcome to Inside Leisure World. I'm honored today to introduce Dr. Betty Koven, PhD, and Anna Derby. Dr. Koven, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm glad to be here, Bonnie.
Thank you. Can you tell me a little about yourself?
Well, shall we start way back when, or shall I give you a more updated version?
A more updated version.
Okay.
Perhaps from being in school on.
Well, from being in school. I went to Wayne State University in Detroit, where I lived for most of my adult life.
Mm-hmm.
And I got my PhD there in psychology, and I was in private practice for about 26, 27 years. And then I retired. It was fun being a therapist. It was something I enjoyed a lot. It was really nice sitting there and having people just throw money at you in order to talk to you. That was a good feeling. And I was rather successful at it. And then after I retired, I lived in a big, sprawling house with my 3 pets.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. And I knew about Leisure World because my daughter lives in Long Beach. And I did want to come and move here, but I had 3 pets. And so I couldn't do that, and I couldn't give them away, and I couldn't put them down. So I just continued living in Detroit area, in Troy, Michigan, actually. And then after the 2 oldest of the pets passed away, one cold and dreary day in December, I was driving down the road and it was snowing. And I said, what am I doing here? And that's when I decided to move. I had the house up for sale within a month, and I moved here within 6 months.
When you first came here to Leisure World, well, you were looking at apartments. Mm-hmm. What was your first feeling about entering the Golden Gates over here?
My first feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the biggest thing I was interested in was a sense of community. Because having lived in a suburban area, the situation arose one day, the last winter that I was there, where my garage door, which the garage was attached to the house, the garage door would not come down, and it was a blizzard. And the snow was coming in, and all it really needed was for a man who was strong enough and tall enough to just yank it and push it and get it down. But I realized there was nobody there. Everybody was at work in all the houses around me. I was really the only one at home. So I decided then and there also that I just couldn't stay there anymore.
And then you came into Leisure World.
So I came to
Mm-hmm.
Leisure World, and I came here because I wanted that sense of community. I wanted that sense of security, that I would have somebody to help me if I needed help. And I also loved the idea of the over 200 clubs that we have. I was an avid crafter, having tried many different crafts, and I thought that's what I would be doing when I came to Leisure World. However, I had only lived in Leisure World for less than 6 months at the time when my neighbor, who was legally blind and on her walker, came and knocked on my door, and to me that was like opportunity knocking. She asked me if I wanted to run for the board. Well, I thought about it for one day and decided, well, I might as well try it. It's only a 1-year commitment, and I tried it. And I was on that board for 2 years. And then they asked me if I wanted to run for the GRF board. That's the big board, as you all know. And I said, okay. And I've done that. And I have to tell you that what it does, this is like a new career for me. I have purpose, and I have a lot of satisfaction in doing what I do. It's exciting, it's involved, and never having worked as part of a team, I am now learning how to do that. And so I'm learning a lot of new things, keeping my brain very active as a senior. And this is all very good for me.
That's wonderful. Now, you've put on some workshops, or one workshop actually, lately. Can you tell me a little about the workshop?
Okay. Well, perhaps before I tell you about that workshop, I'll tell you about a class that I taught
Certainly.
when I first started living in Leisure World. OLLI, OSHA Lifelong Learning Institute, that's run out of Cal State Long Beach, does have a program on the campus of Long Beach, of Leisure World. And they're very eager for anybody who has any kind of skills to teach classes. So I decided to teach a class that I titled Writer's Toolbox. So it would give writers the opportunity to learn new techniques. And what experience, you might ask?
Please tell me.
Well, as a matter of fact, I taught writing as part of the things that I did after I retired when I was living in Troy, Michigan. I did teach some writing classes, and I also wrote a book. Well, I'm not going to tell you about the book. I don't want to. It's on Amazon, though.
Okay.
And that was fun because there I met one of our soon-to-be centenarians. He was only 99 when I met him. I don't know if I should mention his name.
I think you could.
His name is Otto Ross, and right now he's 101, and he is a poet. And he came to the class, and this is a class of writing techniques, and he wanted to read his poetry, which he writes one poem a day, and he's been doing that for years. And I said, no, you couldn't read his poetry. And he said, oh, well, everybody always lets me read my poetry. And I said, well, not in this class, because this is a class you have an assignment, and you can read that when you've written it. And so he went away. He came back the next week. Same thing happened. Well, I had a lady come and really berate me because I wouldn't let him read his poetry. However, he came back the third week. He had done the assignment, and he had done it well, and he read that piece. And this is an example of what happens, the kinds of personality characteristics that centenarians have. And they find ways to cope. They have common sense, and they find new ways to do things, and they just move on. They don't hang on to it and get all angry like that woman did. And that woman, by the way, predeceased, she passed away a couple of years ago. And Otto is still with us.
Oh, absolutely. So it sounds like you found a home.
Yes.
You found a home, and you found a place where people appreciate you,
Oh, yes.
and you appreciate them,
Oh, I love them.
and it sounds terrific. One of the other things, we're going to get back to the centenarians in a few minutes. One of the other projects that you've worked on, I believe, is our cafe.
No, I didn't work on the
Okay.
cafe. I'm not on that committee.
Okay.
I am a director on the board, and as such, I am on 4 standing committees, and I think about 5 subcommittees. So I am rather busy. I'll get back to that workshop you asked me about when we talk about the centenarian.
Right, right.
Of the committees that I'm on the finance committee, and that is complex and a lot of you have to really understand what's going on because it's really very important. And from that, I'm on a subcommittee called the Investment Committee. Now, we've never had this before, and I was appointed chair of that committee, and we're finding ways to follow the law of the Davis-Sterling law and follow all the things that we're supposed to do. We never had this committee, and yet we were supposed to have had it. So now we do have it. So I am on that committee, and then I am on another committee called the Beautification Committee, which has been exploring the possibilities of upgrading the landscaping at the front gate. And that's sort of slow, it's moving slowly. And there will be votes taken as to whether or not the globe will stay a globe or will turn into a sphere, and there will be it will be decided by the vote. So no decision has come about yet.
Do you have time for any more committees?
Yes, as a matter of fact.
Oh, my goodness. What else would you like to be on?
Well, I am on.
Okay.
The Communications Committee used to be called the Publications Committee, and it only had oversight of the newspaper. But now it has oversight of all media, and that includes the newspaper, that includes the website. And so we also have a website committee, of which I am also chair, which I appointed myself. And that's to tweak the website and make it more interesting and more dynamic. For example, we just took pictures of all the directors to put in the directory instead of just a black and white name and phone number. Now we'll have pictures. And we're taking pictures also of all the managers to put in as well. So those are the kinds of things that we're doing. My assignment at the moment is to write a history of Leisure World, and I have located a former president and the founder of the Historical Society, Tom Barrett. He wrote a lot of stuff about the history, and I have to go through that this very weekend, as a matter of fact, and get that ready for the meeting on Tuesday.
I just don't think you have any more time.
I think that's all. I think, well, yeah.
Well, now I want to know about this workshop.
Okay, the workshop.
The workshop that you put on about 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
There were over 70 people, I believe.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a follow-up to Carl Berhaney's workshop, which he did the month before. And he has a master's degree in gerontology, and he has written his thesis on how to live a long and healthy life. And that was a compendium of all the research that he could find on what makes a long and healthy life. And he continued it, even though he had another career and did other things. This has been his passion to continue doing that. So he told us about that in the very first workshop. In the workshop that I followed up with, I focused more on the personality characteristics of the centenarians.
Share them with us.
Okay. Well, of course, when I was in school way back when, in the last century, we didn't have a whole lot of information. So I went on the web and on the internet, and I found some research done at the University of Georgia. This is only one of 2 pieces of research ever done on the personality characteristics of centenarians. And they had questionnaires for somewhere over 200 centenarians in Georgia and their caregivers or their family member. And then they analyzed the answers, and they came up with a personality grouping that they found among a high number of centenarians. It doesn't mean that this is the only kind of personality you can have and live to be a centenarian, but there's a high number of them that do that. So these characteristics are having high competence.
Get your pads out, everyone.
High competence means like common sense, ability to figure things out and take care of things. And that's a very important characteristic. It's something you start learning like when you're 5 years old, when you first go to kindergarten. You learn how to be competent, you learn how to stay in the line, you learn how to do what the teacher tells you to do. And those children are always usually very eager to please, and a lot of them learn that. They get rewarded for it, and they do better, and they move on. Although, as we all know, there are some people, quite a number of people, who don't. They just don't. There are those people in the world who just, everything goes wrong. They just don't know how to make
Their attitudes.
good decisions. They never learned that competence. Then the other quality of the three is low neuroticism. Don't mistake this for neuroses, although it's very similar. The opposite of it is high stability. So there's the neurotic who is unstable and the stable person. So these centenarian characteristics include high stability. So they're very stable. They're very grounded people who can deal with a trauma. They won't curl up in a ball and hide for 2 years after the death of a loved one. They'll take it in stride. They'll go through their grief, do their grief, and then move on. Having, as a therapist, having seen numerous people who practically, literally curled up in a ball for years after the loss of a loved parent or child or husband, they never got over it. This takes a huge toll on you physically.
Definitely.
And emotionally, and those people that can go through their grief and move on, they're the ones, they have, that's an ability that the centenarians have. Remember, the centenarians are really special people. They've survived a very long time. They've had to deal with a great deal in life. It's not that they didn't have traumas. They did, only they learned to deal with it. One of our centenarians just mentioned casually, oh yes, she had breast cancer back in the 60s. Oh well, she is a survivor par excellence. She is a breast cancer survivor from treatments from the 60s, which are way more primitive than the treatments that are available today. So now the third quality is, let's see, extroversion. So if you're high extroversion, which means you're more likely to talk to people, be with people, reach out to others, and we know from other research that it's really important to interact with other people. That the minimum of interaction in a day that every person absolutely needs to have is 10 minutes. That's the barest minimum. 10 minutes of interacting with another human being.
Not a dog.
Well, that helps, but dogs don't talk back. And when you tell a dog your troubles, it's not the same thing. So this is interaction. Okay. So that's the three qualities.
We're going to stop for a moment. There's no picture in there.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully it'll come back. But
This happened last month.
What?
They're having a
I'm
problem.
talking a lot.
That's okay.
No, that's good.
That's good, and I'm
But
no, that's fine
have to
because
really organized.
it's very organized. I can't believe I've left it at the beginning. But
Well, it happened, when we were doing.
And the third quality of the centenarian personality that's is indicative of the survivors is extroversion. This means these are people who are more inclined to reach out to others, to make friends, to talk, to be busy, to be active. And we know from other research that it's really important that everybody has contact with another human being, the bare minimum being 10 minutes a day. Only 10 minutes will help you to survive. It's the people who don't have that contact who get into trouble with depression and other mental and health problems. So there we go. That's the triumvirate, the three big personality characteristics shown by a large number of centenarians.
Well, I'd like to talk to you now about the Centenarian Committee that you have started. And then Anna, I'll bring you in as well. So Dr. Betty, may I call you Dr. Betty?
Of course.
Thank you. So Dr. Betty, please tell me about how did this whole process start with the committee?
Well, I guess was my brainchild. I had Otto in my class, and then I went to a little gathering at somebody else's house and met another man who the first thing he said to me was, "Hello, my name is Hyman. I'm 100 years old." Okay, so now I had met two centenarians, both outgoing, both talkers, both very interesting people. And then one day, I asked the people in administration, how many centenarians do we have in Leisure World? And she said, "Oh, I think we have about 3. I said, 3? I know 2, so let me find out. Well, it took a lot of digging. Finally, I got a list from IT department, and that list contained 49 names.
Wow.
However, it took a lot of detective work on the part of Pat Wilson, who's the chair of our committee, and to find out that actually it took her months to find this out and a lot of work, that we actually have 21 confirmed centenarians living in Leisure World today. That is, so once I found that out, I was talking to my daughter on the phone and all excited about this, telling her what a big number this was, and I'm a numbers person. I love to play with percentages, and I looked at the percentage of centenarians in California. Although nobody had that figure, I put it together myself. And and they had numbers for Japan, they had numbers for other places. We have a much higher number. Ours is like 0.5%, and theirs is like 0.2%. We have a really high number, and I got very excited about that. And my daughter said, "Oh, why don't you give them a luncheon on the 100th day of the year?" And I said, what a good idea.
Wonderful.
What a good idea. So that's how this started, with a casual conversation, just me being excited about the numbers. And from that, I, as chairman of the communications committee from the board of directors, GRF, I appointed a committee, and another director, Pat Wilson, and she gathered up a group of writers who were going to do all the interviews, and we had altogether 5 writers involved, and all the editing was done by me, and then by the newspaper staff did further editing. So it went through quite a process to get to the final articles. Then we had Ms. Anna Derby here, our event coordinator, develop and create the luncheon and do a huge amount of work for that. And then we had Bonnie Z. Cooper as our TV coordinator and producer, for all events connected to the luncheon and taking pictures of all the centenarians. And then we had the workshops, which I've mentioned before. So that's how it came about, and we kind of felt our way. It wasn't all planned wonderfully from the beginning. It just kind of unfolded as we went along, and that's how it happened.
And I'd like you to pick up on this one, and then I want to say something at the very end. We've got about 4 minutes to go. So at this point, Anna, you are the coordinator of the food, everything on that end. Can you tell me a little about it?
Thank you. Thanks for being one of the committee, and I was happy to join. And it's been a learning experience, and yeah, it's all set up. We hire the caterer, and we have a decoration and entertainer. By the way, the Tommy Williams and Betty Fritz are the most famous entertainers in our community, and they are glad to perform for the centenarians, and along with the guests will be there. And we plan on, but first time we plan on kind of buffet style, but we decided to full service. And thanks for the Sunshine members, and they volunteer servers. And so it's been all set up, and we would love to have many shareholders attend our event.
And it's so interesting because as soon as you heard that there was a financial difference between having the caterer bring in their people, you immediately suggested your wonderful people from the Sunshine Club. That same day, you gave us a call and said, yes, I have 10 people or 8 people. I thought that was just the most amazing.
Yes.
Just absolutely great. So I really, ahead of time, I'd like to thank everyone that is donating their time.
I'd just like to add that the mayor of Seal Beach, Ellery Deaton, will be attending the luncheon and handing out certificates to all of the centenarians.
And ladies, I just want to give a little of my personal experience with this. One, I'm very honored to be working with your whole group on behalf of also the Video Producers Club. We're very happy to be there with you. Wow. And it's been an enlightening experience to be able to go in and talk to all these people that have wonderful lives. Perhaps they've had issues in their lives, but now they're happy, they're content, and they're so willing to share. And they're planning to come to the luncheon. And at that luncheon, what we're planning to do as well is take pictures of everyone. Hopefully, we'll be able to put them on a site that their family can plug into. They'll have free pictures. Is that fabulous? And then there'll be video available. So thank you both so much for helping us with this. We have about 2 minutes left. So Dr. Betty, do you have something additional you'd like to add?
I'd like to say that I've had a lot of cooperation from the staff at the newspaper. They've helped us a lot, and they've even written some follow-up articles for us, and they've done a lot of work for us. I would say that it's been a growing experience for me as well. It's pushed me to use all of my abilities, and as I always tell people, you know, like, don't blink, because I might come up with another idea.
And you did the other day.
Yes, I did. Which one? Yeah, so things do